You treat her as though she were a bag of potatoes. Even though I slung her over my shoulder, we are both terrific parents because of our combined parenting abilities. Kei Cuoco was having the time of her life. She became one of the best paid actresses on television because to Penny from The Big Bang Theory, she seemed unstoppable and made over $150 million. However, something was breaking behind the cameras. She stunned everyone on sight when she entered her trailer in 2022. She got her producers together and said something that made a huge difference. Music. The terrible reality of her last years on the show is revealed by what transpired later. It is devastating to read the most recent reports regarding her condition. This is no longer about fame or money. On November 30, 1985, Kei Cuoco was born in Camarillo, California, which is just roughly 50 miles from Los Angeles. And even before she realized what that meant, her life was affected by her proximity to Hollywood. Her mother, Lane Wingate, brought her German and English heritage into the family's peaceful routines while staying at home with the children as her father, Gary Cuoco, worked as a real estate agent. In many respects, life seemed normal, but the entertainment industry was always close by and drew her in sooner than anyone had anticipated. She was performing advertisements whenever she could and had previously appeared in front of a camera for the television film Quicksand: No Escape by the age of 6. Because La was nearby, those early auditions went smoothly. Every tiny task brought her one step closer to the road that would ultimately define her. It was a gentle start, something straightforward. However, it set the stage for a profession that would soon be unavoidable. Her parents encouraged her to try everything before acting took over. She picked up a tennis racket at the age of 3 and quickly became engrossed in the rhythm. Junior competitions followed one another. She was also considered one of Southern California's best amateurs by the late 1990s. For someone who was also rushing to auditions, she concluded the 1998 year as number 12 in doubles and number 56 in girls' 14 singles. She continued to appear in ads, though. The transition between sets and competitions was never slowed down. She learned how to remain tough, focused, and erect under pressure from the combination of acting and sports. When Hollywood began making bigger demands, those qualities became the silent armor she would need. It appeared as though she might devote herself entirely to tennis in the late 1990s. Coaches recognized promise. Those close to her thought she could become a professional. She weighed the pressure of competition every day and exercised with that objective in mind. However, another aspect of her life continued to develop. Acting jobs were becoming available more frequently. She was 16 years old and already working on TV shows such as 8 Simple Rules by 2002. She gradually made the decision, but then abruptly left tennis in 2002 to pursue acting instead, shocking those who had assumed she would remain in the sports industry. However, she was aware of her strongest points. Her journey to The Big Bang Theory and all of its subsequent developments was paved by that one choice. She never found school to be easy. From the beginning, she felt different from the other children. She began homeschooling around the 5th grade in order to stay up to date with tournaments, sets, and auditions. It was simultaneously easier and more difficult. Because she could continue to move, it was easier. More difficult since it made her feel alone. On paper, her 16-year-old high school graduation sounds amazing, but it also came with a certain amount of loneliness. She never had a normal school life, never truly fit in. However, her career survived because to her adaptability. She was able to take on more significant duties and was never constrained by the bell schedule that everyone else adhered to. Her family remained stable during this entire ordeal. She attended auditions accompanied by her father. Her mother encouraged her to remain kind even when the business wasn't, and backed her decisions. She continued to work with the same managers, agents, and lawyers after turning 15, something that hardly ever occurs in Hollywood. Brianna, her younger sister, also became an actress quite quickly, transforming the entire family into a close-knit group that enabled her to weather the first turbulence. It was simpler for her to go forward and have faith in the path ahead when those folks were by her side. She began working prior to turning 10. She co-starred with Tim Matt and Donald Sutherland in Quicksand No Escape as Connie Reinhardt when she was 6 years old. The film was released on March 4, 1992. She got a preview of the world she will live in at that first encounter. She returned in 1995, co-starring with Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington in the CI5 movie Virtuosity, which was released on August 4th. She made her film debut, which was modest yet significant because she co-starred with well-known actors. She first appeared as a little child in Picture Perfect alongside Jennifer Aniston in 1997. Even though her name appeared at the very end of the credits, it was still an indication that Hollywood was taking notice of her. These early jobs quickly piled up, each one being more important than the one before it. Throughout the 1990s, her visage continued to appear on television. When she was around 7 years old in 1990, she portrayed Miranda in Northern Exposure. In the 1994 film My So-Called Life, she played a young Angela. She portrayed a younger Ellen DeGeneres in the 1995 Ellen Puppy episode, which went on to become one of the most well-known in television history. In 1995, she even made an appearance on Don't Forget Your Toothbrush. Her schedule was crammed with one guest part after another. She continued to try to fit in with other kids who were not living anything like her life while studying, trying out for jobs, and filmmaking. She accumulated almost a dozen credits by the late 1990s. Almost no one outside the industry ever sees this grind. She was initially viewed by casting directors as the adorable blonde supporting character. She portrayed the adorable child in Picture Perfect, the innocent, kidnapped girl in Virtuosity, and the sweet daughter in Quicksand and No Escape. This continued into the 1990s. Adorable, lovely, playful, and perhaps a bit ditzy. For years, That image remained ingrained in her mind. In 2007, she was cast as Penny in The Big Bang Theory, which seemed to be a continuation of her previous character. No one recognized how much time and effort it needed to break out of that mold. She slipped into teen TV before to that momentous occasion. Disney Channel roles immediately appeared in. In 1997, she acted in Toothless, and in 2000 she starred in Alley Cat Strike, a bowling-themed film that became a cult favorite among children. She also starred in Growing Up Brady in 2000 as Maureen McCormack. These parts introduced her to younger audiences and demonstrated her ability to carry a TV film without overly relying on the pretty blonde image. She was beginning to receive recognition by the early 2000s, but she was still looking for a permanent position. The expense of working through childhood was high. She received her diploma at the age of 16 after being homeschooled from the 5th grade and devoted the most of her days to acting or acting preparation. Unique. She was deprived of typical adolescence. Being constantly on set or on the go made her feel alienated. She has talked about the burden of constantly being on the verge of fame yet falling short. The demands were great, the job was never-ending, and the emotional toll persisted even after she reached maturity. Her first huge shot followed. At the age of 17, she was cast as Bridget Hennessy on 8 Simple Rules in September 2002. 17.3 million people watched the episode when it debuted, and it averaged 11.1 million in its initial season, making it one of the year's most successful sitcom debuts. She portrayed John Ritter's character's humorous and audacious teenage daughter, Bridget. Everyone was drawn to her timing, charm, and connection with Ritter. She went from consistent job to true prominence almost suddenly. Everything seemed to be coming together at last. However, nobody anticipated the change in life. John Ritter passed away unexpectedly at the age of 54 on September 11, 2003, while the episode was being filmed due to an unidentified aortic dissection. He rushed to the hospital after feeling ill during rehearsal, and the doctors thought he was having a heart attack. He died within hours as a result of the anticoagulants they gave him, which only made matters worse. The entire cast was struck by the shock. Filming ceased. In the second season, ABC addressed his character's death as a way to pay tribute to him. The storyline's anguish was mingled with the cast's grief. Later, Kay stated that this experience made her realize how fleeting life is and how rapidly things may change in this line of work. After then, the show had trouble. Season 1's high ratings were followed by a decline. The average has fallen to almost 7 million viewers by the 3rd season. The tone had shifted, despite James Garner joining the cast. Ritter was missed by music fans. It had a different vibe. Haley witnessed this firsthand and discovered how quickly a career can change due to circumstances that are completely beyond of her control. She refused to fade out until the show concluded in 2005. She played Billie Jenkins, a fresh witch thrown into the already adored Charmed series when she joined the show for its 7th season. Although it wasn't a big part, it allowed her to expand into a different genre and kept her recognizable. It was a wise decision that demonstrated her flexibility and will to maintain momentum. Nevertheless, skepticism surfaced. She questioned whether she would ever leave supporting parts. 8 basic restrictions made her worry if her big opportunity had already passed. She was afraid about getting lost as new celebrities dominated the scene. She silently carried those ideas with her as she persevered through each audition. However, she persisted, and that perseverance led her directly to the opportunity to play Penny on The Big Bang Theory in 2007. It demonstrated that sometimes the most difficult years give you the fortitude you need at the turning point. The woman who lived across the hall was not Penny at all when the show debuted in 2007. She was played by Amanda Walsh and had a keen edge that pierced every scene. Her name was Katie. She didn't speak softly. She didn't care who she bruised when she pushed. Whenever she felt like it, she took advantage of Sheldon's and Leonard's generosity. And the audience immediately sensed it. They were unable to communicate with her. They perceived Leonard and Sheldon as apprehensive and compassionate, akin to children attempting to make sense of the world. Therefore, they felt wronged by a neighbor who mistreated them. According to test audiences, she felt poisonous. The creators were aware of the issue. They rewrote everything and let Katie go in a matter of weeks. A new person who was kinder and more capable of balancing the lives of 2 timid scientists with a little heart was brought in by that transformation. Penny then took over. She was a Nebraskan with lofty aspirations and a gentle touch. She was portrayed as someone who could endure hardships without losing her grin. Someone who, simply by being there, could provide Leonard and Sheldon a sense of security and courage. Ki Kwoko didn't even want the part at first. The darker version was more to her liking. She altered her mind, however, as the authors rebuilt the persona and infused it with heart and comedy. The authorities thought she was flawless. Her work in Charmed and 8 Simple Rules demonstrated her ability to possess both timing and charisma. She quickly took center stage in that tiny apartment complex, and the audience sensed it as well. She was paid simply back then. She made around $60,000 each episode for the first 3 seasons, which ran from 2007 to 2009 for a total of about music $3.78 million for 63 episodes. Jim Parsons and Johnny Galecki both earned the same. Although the money was wonderful, it was nothing compared to what lay ahead. She and the others renegotiated when the show came to season 4, and all of a sudden, her pay increased to $200,000 per episode. Music. The figure continued to rise with each season, demonstrating the audience's rapid growth and the cast's astuteness in protecting their future. The show settled into a rhythm during those formative years. It seemed small and specialized in the first 2 seasons, but by the time season 3 debuted in 2009, the weekly viewership had soared to almost 15 million. The explanation was straightforward. Penny, Leonard, and Sheldon's interaction felt novel and exciting. The audience was unable to turn away. People were entertained by Penny and Leonard's sluggish, clumsy, and frequently humorous dance. One of the highlights was Sheldon and Penny's peculiar friendship. Their diametrically opposed worldviews produced moments that, music, people discussed for weeks. The program went from being a quiet comedy to a ratings behemoth because to that growing friendship. Most people were unaware that Penny and Leonard had a secret going on behind the scenes. Kay Cuoco and Johnny Galecki had a discreet relationship from 2008 to 2009. Even some crew members were unaware of it, since they were so good at hiding it. Later on, Cuoco acknowledged that she had liked him from the start. They became even closer in scenes like the annihilation of Nirvana. They even considered getting married at one point. Although they broke up in 2009, they remained in touch. Fans felt their on-screen relationship was more genuine because of that secret chapter, even before they were aware of the reality. Once the performance took off, money changed once more. Cuoco had only made $45,000 each episode at the start, but her value increased as the show expanded. She was earning $200,000 every episode by season 2. Before season 4, she had an unusual yearly automatic raise of $50,000 as part of her contract. It meant that her income increased naturally with each season. She was already well ahead of most sitcom actors by the time she joined season 5. Her salary increased from $250,000 to $300,000 to $350,000 each episode. Throughout seasons 5 through 7, she made almost $25.2 million during those 3 seasons. Additionally, she was paid a portion of the revenues from syndication, which increased her income even further. At the time, very few actresses in the world earned as much as she did. She had become a powerful figure in television. Then came the moment that is remembered by all. Cuoco, Jim Parsons, and Johnny Galecki agreed to a $1 million per episode contract by season 8 in 2014. No cast from a sitcom had ever gotten that far. The deal earned her about $72 million and included 72 episodes from seasons 8, 9, and 10. She also received 1% of the show's back-end music earnings. An additional $10 million were added in the first year alone. Her net worth surpassed $100 million by 2020, making her one of the wealthiest actors in television history. But in the last few seconds, she took everyone by surprise. For the 2017-2019 seasons 11 and 12. In order to elevate Mayim Bialik and Melissa Rawl to $500,000 music each episode, she consented to take a $100,000 wage cut. In all, she forfeited almost $4.8 million. She stated that she never wanted her colleagues to feel undervalued. Because such generosity is uncommon, that decision sparked conversation in Hollywood. Her estimated net worth was $110 million by 2022. She made over $149 million from the show alone. The remainder comes from fresh work following the conclusion of the series and collaborations like Priceline. People still talk about how she went from being a comedy performer to becoming one of the richest women on TV. However, all of that achievement nearly ended in an instant. Music. She went horseback riding at a Los Angeles ranch in September 2010. She was an avid rider. On a horse, she felt secure. However, something went wrong that day. She was thrown off by the frightened horse. The horse attempted to jump over her as she hit the ground, but instead fell on her left leg. The power with which her tibia and fibula snapped prevented paramedics from taking off her boot for over 5 minutes. She subsequently compared the experience to falling on a heap of leaves and realizing right away that something horrible had occurred. The doctors at the hospital had to make a scary decision. An infection could spread quickly. The cracks were severe and open. Amputation started to seem plausible. Later, Chuck Laurier described it as the darkest moment he had witnessed during the show's 12-year run. Before surgery, Cuoco Music agreed to a waiver that gave doctors permission to take her leg if necessary. That was one of the scariest moments of her life, according to her. In Los Angeles, at Curlin Job, Dr. Stephen Lombardo and his group worked fast. Although they told her she might never walk the same way again, they managed to save her leg. 2 major procedures were performed on her. After cleaning the wound, the first person left her leg exposed for a few days. 2 metal rods that are still inside her were inserted by the second. She continued to wear a boot and a cast. The doctors said it would be months before she was able to walk once more. However, she started moving within a week. She persevered despite the severe pain and lengthy rehabilitation. At the beginning of season 4, she missed 2 episodes and came back to the set still recovering. The act kept her largely motionless and concealed her cast with counters, big bags, and camera angles. They depicted her sitting a lot, leaning, or allowing people to pass by her. Although it was a scramble, the season survived. The emotional burden she carried was hidden from viewers. She was scarcely able to walk after losing all of her strength. She had been in danger of losing her leg. Her career had seemed to be on the verge of collapse. That type of terror remains with a person. She then stated that the scars give her a sense of strength, as if she had survived a potentially devastating event. She developed a new appreciation for her body. She discovered how to breathe and calm down. Above all, she became aware of how brittle everything may be. After the conclusion of The Big Bang Theory, Kaley Cuoco didn't simply leave. She experienced a stirring that inspired her to attempt a life she had never experienced before. She founded Yes Norman Productions in October 2017 and gave it the name of her dog, Norman. The one animal that had always seemed familiar. Doors open as soon as she launches it. She had never experienced such independence until she signed a multi-year first-look contract with Warner Brothers Television. All of a sudden, she was crafting scripts rather than just reading them. She headed towards something broader after leaving the sitcom realm in which she had spent the previous 12 years. She created an environment that embraced a variety of stories in Beverly Hills, where the company eventually made its home. It gave rise to shows like Harley Quinn and The Flight Attendant. Although the job was unfamiliar and frightening, it also felt like hers. Soon after, the industry began to take note as those projects attracted recognition, orders, and additional opportunities for expansion. The arrival of the flight attendant in November 2020 brought about yet another alteration. At first, it appeared tiny, but suddenly it burst. More than 4 were plucked at the premiere. 5 million people saw it, and discussions over it continued. Her portrayal of Cassie Bowden, a lady enmeshed in a murder mystery and descending into her own life, was discussed. The more they discussed the bold choices, the tension, and the flair, the more prizes came their way. Nominations, choices, critiques, and Emmys. Kay carried a show as both an executive producer and a star for the first time, and she felt a surge of pressure. She, music, felt self-assured on certain days. On other days, she questioned whether her weight would allow her to breathe at all. Every day, she had to appear in front of the camera with the same fire, while selecting castings, overseeing editing, and directing the narrative. But because this was her first time stepping beyond the safe bubble she had been in for so long, she persisted. 2006. It felt like evidence that she had not only survived, but also transformed when the compliments arrived. She immediately jumped into darker parts following the conclusion of The Big Bang Theory. First place went to Harley Quinn in November 2019. With the necessary wild edge for the role, her voice cracked, snapped, and laughed. She also influenced the show in the background. People adored it. Seasons continued to arrive. In 2020, it moved to HBO Max, giving her more room to demonstrate that she wasn't limited to any one genre. She gradually established herself as a person capable of handling comedy, drama, animation, and whatever else that came her way. Those who had only known her as Penny were taken aback. She was not at all surprised by it. She was also unaffected by money. Her base pay from The Big Bang Theory was around $150 million. She was making $900,000 each episode by season 11. In order for her co-stars to advance alongside her, she occasionally even took pay cutbacks. She was free with that type of money. It allowed her to try potentially unsuccessful things. It enabled her to launch Yes Norman Productions without worrying about losing everything. She was able to pursue initiatives that seemed thrilling, odd, and hazardous, and she kept doing it because she finally realized that skill by itself cannot unlock doors. Security can. Then her own narrative collapsed in on itself. Both the beginning and the end of her marriage to Ryan Swingjetting happened quickly. They got married on December 31, 2013, after meeting in August and being engaged in September. Meeting to engagement took 3 months, and marriage to divorce took 21 months. September 2015 saw the announcement of the split, which was completed on May 9, 2016. The prenuptial agreement was signed only 1 month prior to the wedding, thus it ended peacefully. In particular, she discovered what she needed and what she could no longer take, she later stated. Carl Cook arrived shortly after. In late 2016, they got together. On November 30, 2017, her 31st birthday, they became engaged, and on June 30, 2018, they were married. Together, people adored them. They appeared to be a long-lasting relationship, posting pictures and heartfelt messages. However, they declared their separation in September 2021, and on June 15, 2022, the divorce was formalized. She later acknowledged that this breakup was the most painful thing she had ever experienced. She described it as sending her into a dark spiral. Just a year before to filing for divorce, they had moved in together and were still unable to work things out. She was hurt and left feeling empty. She also realized for the first time how burdensome loneliness can be. The stress of the divorce manifested in her body while she was filming season 2 of The Flight Attendant. Her skin developed a rash. She could hardly walk due to the excruciating pain in her joints. It was one of the darkest periods in her life, according to her. Both Kay and the woman she portrayed, Cassie, were experiencing emotional decline. Even after the cameras stopped and she was forced to sit down due to the agony, she continued to work. Her close friend and co-star, Zosa Maimamoth, offered assistance and even moved in with her. It became evident how tightly mental distress may encircle the body. Kay eventually conducted a self-intervention. She gathered her producers in her trailer and declared that she needed assistance. Even she was taken aback by the remarks. She was the one who had always kept everything together, but she was unable to do so now. Her life transformed when she began to take treatment seriously for the first time. She acknowledged that she had experienced loneliness and depression. She allowed herself to cry. She allowed others to help her. She was stronger than she anticipated. She began speaking candidly about mental health in the hopes that her voice would encourage others to seek assistance as well. Then, a gentle thing entered her life. Andrea Pet Joseph, their shared manager, introduced her to Tom Pelphrey at the beginning of 2022. It was like love at first sight, she claimed. He shared Polaroids of them on Instagram on May 3, 2022. She shared pictures of mountains. They both appeared content in a novel way. She claimed that she felt as though her life was either coming to an end or just getting started. At that point, she recognized it was only getting started. Matilda Carmine Ritchie Pelphrey, their daughter, was born on March 30, 2023. She praised the nurses and friends who assisted her and posted pictures to social media. She was once again transformed by motherhood. Work stopped. In a lovely way, life felt heavier and calmer. She wrote about how her world had changed because of this little kid, and shared pictures of them wearing identical clothes and cuddling. Her wrists began to hurt sharply shortly after. Physicians referred to it as mommy wrist, an inflammation brought on by holding a baby for extended periods of time. She made fun of herself for pouting when she shared a selfie in July 2023 while sporting black wrist splints. However, she also described the illness, assisting other new moms in comprehending something that many go through in solitude. After delivering birth, she continued to struggle emotionally. She had worry, mood swings, and days when she felt flattened. She started going to therapy. She claimed that 2022 was among the most difficult years of her life. She experienced panic episodes. While filming moments that reflected her own suffering, She frequently broke down in tears. However, Tom Pelphrey remained by her side. Gradually, she regained her equilibrium. She turned 40 by the end of 2025. On both coasts, there were unexpected gatherings. In August 2024, Tom, family, and friends had all proposed to her. She claimed to feel like the world's most adored girl. They are still searching for the ideal project to collaborate on. They want something that doesn't feel forced and fits them both. When the proper idea comes along, they say, it will happen. Due to Big Bang's $1 million per episode profits in the last seasons, her net worth increased to almost $110 million by 2025. She earned $48 million from just seasons 11 and 12. The figure increased when you included her production firm, Priceline, and Toyota endorsements. She purchased a 40-acre horse ranch. In 2019, she purchased a $12 million property in Hidden Hills, which she sold for $16 million in 2022. Her life appeared to be perfect from the outside. On the inside, she was still learning how to cope with pressure, expectation, and heartbreak. The internet continued to fabricate a story about her. Videos with the song Tragic K Quoco began to appear everywhere following her divorce from Carl Cook. They took fragments of her life and turned them into grief that went viral. They discussed her depression, divorces, and the horse riding injury she had in 2016. They displayed her stress rash while she was a flight attendant, and when she pleaded for assistance from her colleagues. They turned her problems into a spectacle by fusing reality with hyperbole. Sincerity felt like her only compass. So even though it hurt, she continued to speak honestly. She declared that she had no desire to get married again. She continued to believe in love, nevertheless. She claimed that although 2 difficult divorces had altered her perspective on marriage, they had not altered her need for intimacy. Her encounter with Tom Pelphrey, music, demonstrated that she still had hope. Even though she no longer believed in written vows, she highlighted that love could still blossom after hardship. She was once referred to as a dumb blonde. For years, Penny defined her, but by the 2020s, she had evolved into a reputable actor and producer. Yes, Cassie Bowden and Harley Quinn, Norman Productions. It all demonstrated her grit, range, and unique voice. She overcame the perception that society had of her and created a life that continuously astounded others.